Candidates. I'm Peter Morrison, co-president of the Civic League. Today's program is designed to inform you who are attending as participants, plus our much larger audience of voters who are watching now and viewing subsequent rebroadcasts on NCTV. I want to thank all the candidates for committing the time and the energy to seek public office, to those elected for serving the citizens of Nantucket. Before turning this over to our moderator, Lee Saperstein, I want to introduce John Carl Mcgrady, who is co-piloting today's forum behind the scenes. John Carl, say hello. He's a silent co-pilot.
Hello, sorry.
Hello, thank you. For your information, John Carl has just graduated from Nantucket High School, where he was the editor of the school newspaper. And this fall, he's headed to Williams College with a full scholarship, thanks to the golf club. Congratulations, John. I'm going to act as today's timekeeper. And following a long tradition, I will ring our venerated bell to signal each candidate when their allotted time is up. Jane Lamb, who was our timekeeper for many years and who is fondly known as the unofficial mayor of Wauwinet, used this very bell in her kindergarten class in the 1950s. We keep it in service to honor the Civic League's tradition of service. Its distinctive ring, as you will now hear again, is both polite and persuasive. Lee, it's over to you.
Thank you, Peter. If I may, a quick little anecdote. I will tell it of myself, but it has been ascribed to Winston Churchill, Adlai Stevenson, and a host of others. Lee, I was asked this afternoon, could you do a 2-minute talk on mining engineering? I am a mining engineer. And I said, oh no, that's not nearly enough time to prepare for a 2-minute talk. Oh, rather sarcastically said the questionnaire, how long would it take you to do a 60-minute talk? I smiled and said, I could do that now. Colleagues, we're going to start with candidates for the Nantucket Water Commission. There are 5 candidates for 2 3-year terms. Let me repeat that because it is different from what you may have seen. 5 candidates for 2 3-year terms. A mistake was made on the ballot, and that mistake was carried forward into our program. There are 3 terms available, 2 at 3 years and 1 at 2 years. Our 5 candidates all filed papers for the 3-year term. So when we hold the election, the top 2 vote getters will be seated. And whoever it is that has the best write-in candidate, write-in campaign will get the 2-year seat. The 2-year seat will be available to the winning write-in campaign. And with that, we have 5 candidates: Curtis Barnes, Robert Benchley, John Pearl, Alan Reinhardt, and Jill Beath. Our questioners, our people who are asking the questions, are Josh Bowling from the Enquirer and Mirror, and Jason Graziadei recently, Jason, make sure I've got this right. It's N Magazine?
Yes, N Magazine. Thanks.
N Magazine. Thank you, Jason. Jason was with the hospital for quite a while. So what's going to happen is I'm going to ask each of our candidates for their 2-minute statement. I think it's best that if we run through all 5, and then our questioners will turn to them alphabetically, and in any second round, reverse alphabet. So, Curtis Barnes, you're up. Curtis, are you there? You're muted.
Better?
Yeah, you're Curtis. You should be up. Start Start
Am I
now.
ready?
Yes,
Okay. You got me, everyone? Josh, you hear me?
everybody
Okay.
can hear you.
All right, thank you. Thank you again for holding this today. I first of all want to say that I think the water company does a great job. I am currently serving on the Town Government Study Committee, which is taking a look at how the town is run and managed. And one of my concerns and a reason that's causing me to run at this time for the water commissioner position is that I have been concerned about a lack of transparency. I live up on Sunset Hill off North Liberty Street. North Liberty has been under construction for 2 years with the water company and the sewer department. And at the last water company meeting, they had on the agenda an item for reporting on North Liberty, which would make me very happy to finally get it paved, which it is not yet. And so I went to go to the meeting, which every other meeting of every commission and board on this town is on Zoom and recorded. I discovered that it's not on Zoom, it's not on recorded. And in fact, the meeting was listed to be held in person at the water company during the pandemic shutdown. I went to that meeting and I raised the question about why we were not online. And there are a number of reasons, but from my perspective, I think that increasing the transparency, letting the users who pay a pretty good sum for water and sewer here have access to that information is critical. So with that in mind, I have put my papers in, and given the unfortunate situation in the town with the ballot, I am going to request, and in whatever information I put out, I'm going to seek the position as the 2-year candidate on the write-in ballot. So that's where I'm coming from, and I look forward to answering questions.
Thank you, Curtis. As I said, I thought balance would be served best by having the remaining 4 making their opening statements. So stand by when the 5th person is done. You will be first up for a question from either Josh or Jason. Next, Robert Benchley.
Hello, everybody. It's Rob Benchley. I'm running for the Nantucket Water Commission, come fresh off the Wisconsin Water Commission, where I've been a commissioner for about 20 years. And the merger of the 2 companies was at first necessary through various factors. Most of them was for streamlining. And so this is sort of a natural progression for me, going from Sconset and being a part of the entire water board at large. So a little background, you may know that I'm a local photojournalist and writer. I've worked for the Enquirer and Mirror and the Nantucket Beacon newspaper and the Nantucket Independent newspaper and the original Nantucket magazine. I live in Sconset with my wife, Carol, and 2 dogs. And we're both involved in a lot of volunteerism here. Volunteering is sort of a way of life on Nantucket. To that, I'm a former firefighter and first responder for the Sconset Fire Department. Sort of forced into retirement, but be that as it may, I'm still a first responder. Been a member of the Sconset Civic Association. I was vice president for 3 years. Always been a member of and a volunteer for the Sconset Trust. More recently, I'm the chairman of the Sconset Advisory Board for the Historic Districts Commission. And that's no small undertaking. We all can look around us and see what's going on design-wise and building-wise. And maybe personally most important is the fact that I've been appointed to be the keeper of the Sankaty Head Lighthouse. And so that's sort of a historical honor that completely unexpected. And I would call it being more a sweeper than a keeper. But anyway, but as far as the water company goes, my experience there has been quite extensive, not just being a water commissioner, but during my period of being there, we saw the construction of a new and badly needed water storage tank. And we've replaced mains and crossed mains. And we finally, after years of cajoling from the Department of Environmental Protection, we installed water meters because they want to know where every drop of water goes. And we're pretty good. We know about where 99% of the water goes that comes out of our system. And the sort of top of the list of all that is we removed when we installed the water meters, we removed every lead service that we encountered. And Wisconsin Water's had a great history of keeping up with the state and federal regulations. And our testing has always come back excellent. And so, and I really look forward to joining the sort of island at large in the water business. And it's all about safety, and we'll be talking about consumption and health and all kinds of things. And I just feel qualified because of my background.
Thank you,
Okay.
Rob.
Thank you.
And number 3 is John Pearl. John, are you on board? I'm not getting a response. Let me just check the participants list.
I don't see him on either list.
John Carl, thank you. We move forward then to Alan Reinhardt. Alan?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Lee, and the Nantucket Civic League for organizing and presenting this important community program. In preparation for this event, I had to ask myself, why am I running for Water Commission and what are my qualifications? What leads me to run for re-election is a combination of my interests in Nantucket's environment, history, geology, and town government. These interests are brought together through the work, planning, and structure of the Water Commission. All life depends on water. A healthy community requires an efficient, reliable source and a well-run system for distributing clean, pure water. Frances Cartoonan, in her book, Moses Tapped the Washing Pond, A History of Wannacomet Water, tells the story of how and why Nantucket's need for a clean and reliable supply emerged after the Great Fire of 1846. Moses Joy's leadership and perseverance in explaining the need and developing a plan for providing the town with a reliable supply of water for fire suppression and public health laid an early foundation for the community we enjoy today. My qualifications for a position on the Water Commission include my experience serving on a number of town boards, commissions, and committees over the past 30 years. I feel a sense of community and am proud of my involvement and work for Nantucket. And I feel I have the background and skills necessary to continue serving as a member of the newly organized combined Wannacomet and Wisconsin Water Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Our final candidate is Jill V. And Jill, if I may, I think we are one number apart from post office boxes because I occasionally get your mail and you may even occasionally get mine. Jill, it's for you.
Thank you. Well, I used to live next door to Curtis Barnes too, so I think I have a connection to everybody here today, but thanks for having me. I'm really excited to run for Water Commission. Some of you know that I ran for the Select Board a few years ago, and when I did that, I brought up water issues. That was a top issue for me then. I got really interested in the topic when I moved to Nantucket about 7 years ago. And I went to the select board meetings to find out more about local government. I've always been involved in government. Many of you might know I served in Washington, D.C. for about 10 years as a press secretary. But when I started going to the select board meetings here, I found that my favorite night was whenever Mark Willett would talk. And I was like, why am I going home and talking about the water company so much? This is so interesting. And so it just became a point of great interest to me, primarily because we live on an island, and how do we get our water and where do we get our water? I'm in construction and design and home building. And so I source a lot of plumbing supplies for people, and I can often tell you not only what kind of toilet they use, but what time they use their toilet, because of course we now have these meters, and I have to get very involved in people's lives and how they use the water, how much water, and how much does it cost. So it really drives everything in what I do. I always, again, tell people I moved here because I liked my plumber so much, and we're such good friends. And I always think that's how I got attracted to Nantucket was through that. So that's really why I got involved. And I'm on the town finance committee. So that covers a lot of broader issues and a lot of specific issues, but really my passion has always been more about the water issues and water quality. I live in the Surfside area, and with that, the PFAS issue has come up very strongly. We kind of knew that was going to come up, and it has. And I'd very much like to be part of bringing town water out to Surfside to those who want it, and also helping mitigate the cost of tying in for those who need it. Thank you for having me here today.
Jill, thank you. Josh and Jason, who's going first? A question with a 1-minute response from each of the 4 candidates.
Jason, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks. And hi, everyone. Hi to all the candidates. Thanks, Lee. So I thought I'd start off, I know with the Water Commission, water quality obviously is something that you guys are focused on every meeting. But I think, this year that topic has really come into focus with the PFAS issue that has come up around the airport. So from the Water Commission's perspective, I'm wondering, beyond monitoring, are there things that, and, helping the airport commission do what it's doing and, testing, things like that. Is there more the Water Commission can be doing in this area with regards to maybe mitigating the potential for further contamination, advocacy, outreach, education, things like that on the topic of water quality and PFAS in particular?
We're going to go alphabetically this first time round. If there's a second round, we'll go reverse alphabet. So Curtis, it's you.
Okay, well, as with COVID, it's the science. And I think we have to look to the science to address the question out by the airport. I quite frankly don't think that I have enough information to make judgments on it, but I do believe that Mark and the team of advisors to the water company will be working very hard with the airport on that. I think that is a concern and an interest that needs to be developed by all of us. And I think every candidate who's running will be learning a lot as we move along. So from my perspective, I am still looking at management as one of the most important parts of being a water commissioner, and I would intend to pursue it from that basis.
Thank you, Curtis. Rob, it's the same question for all 4 of you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Curtis. Yeah, I think initially this is about education, and we are sort of suddenly being thrust into this and learning, for example, that the PFAS is in a lot of places in our environment. So trying to in the everyday products we use. As far as isolating a source, we know that some of the anti-fire retardant stuff is part of that, but it's going to have to be scientifically based. And I know that the Wannacomet is prepared to offer to provide fresh, safe water to those people on the South Shore. That's a big part of it, but we just have to keep our eyes open, and everybody's going to have to learn an awful lot about this pretty quickly. So, and as a commissioner, it's always been about keeping our customers safe. So,
Thank you,
here
Rob.
we go.
Alan. Alan Reinhardt,
Yeah.
you're there somewhere.
Sorry, yeah, I was muted. Sorry. The Water Commission has been looking at this question of PFAS for several years, actually, when it first became an issue over in Hyannis. They, of course, are much further along in terms of having to deal with this. Nantucket, to its credit, and particularly the water company, has, as soon as we discovered the issue here out at the airport, we have been working very closely with the Airport Commission in terms of how we can provide water to those people that have been affected by the PFAS situation. We have plans in place as far as we've been working on how we would route water to the houses that would be connected. We, of course, test our water, as all water commissions are required to do on a regular periodic basis, and we've added the PFAS testing actually some time ago. So we're looking closely, the Water Commission is looking closely at the situation. We're well aware of the importance of the situation, and we're working to do everything we can to assist the airport and to resolve this problem for the public safety and health of the community.
Thank you, Alan. Jill.
Hi, thank you. I think it's great that, Mark has been on top of these issues for a long time. He has known about them. I was involved with talking to him about bringing a water lab to the island. There are different levels of water labs, and different ones can test for PFAS and not. So that's for a longer discussion at another time. But I know Mark has been on top of this from the beginning. But let me be clear that the water company, if it needs to step in and bridge the gap for these homeowners, regardless of what the Airport Commission does, the water company #1 job is to look out for the public health and safety of the community. And for those people who feel vulnerable and need town water immediately, and they need to mitigate those costs, I'm absolutely going to stand up for them and do that. I don't care what the Airport Commission does. The water company has a lot of integrity, and I know that it can and will do its job. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, is to make sure that we can be that to be that company that reaches the people that need it the most, the quickest, and not just wait for regular, expediency is really important right now. Government's not very good at expediency sometimes, but it needs to be now. And I really want to stand up and fight for the people in these areas who are most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh, do you have a follow-up question for our 4 candidates?
Not a follow-up, but I do have my own next question for the candidates, please, Lee.
Okay.
All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for participating. Should the water company sink additional wells and add pumping capacity to meet increasing demand? What are the consequences of not increasing that capacity? And what role does the state play in that process?
Answers will go in reverse order. So Jill, you've just been up, but you get to go again in response to Josh's question.
Okay, I think there were 3 questions in there, Josh. So you're talking about wells, you're talking about what the state's requirements are, correct?
Right, it's about capacity and
I mean, are you really just asking about development? Is that what you're asking, more about development? Or do we have the capacity?
What the water company needs to do to meet this increasing demand?
Yeah, well, they have been meeting the demand, and they do, and they know that they have enough water to do that. I think one of the things that they know that happening in Cape Cod is some of the wells have been compromised, and we don't want to get into that situation. And I know that Mark does a great job of understanding that, but we do have capacity, and if we need to drill more wells to do that, and the state allows for that, because the state really is the governing body for the aquifer, then of course, we have to comply with what the state wants us to do.
Joe, thank you. Going backwards, Alan.
The water company has been very active over the years in planning for the needs of the community in terms of the water systems. As you know, we have the North Pasture Water Tower. We've put in deep wells at Wires Valley. There is the water tower out in Sconset, as Rob mentioned. And we look very carefully at the number of connections. Right now, with all the affordable housing out in, with all the housing that's going up around the island, the number of connections is just incredible. So we are looking ahead. We're making plans already to add an additional water tower. We're doing site work at the present time. And we're looking, because a new well takes a number of years first to go through the permitting and everything that's required to put in a new storage capacity. We have 2 million gallons available at North Pasture. We have 1 million gallons available, or actually 666,000 gallons at the standpipe on Cliff Road. We have another couple million gallons available through the well on at Wires Valley. And as I say, we're planning ahead for another possible water tower.
Thank you, Alan. Rob Benchley, please.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Going back a few years when Sconset Water was putting in, doing research for its new tank, we had sunk an additional well down in the old well fields, and we discovered an aquifer that was down below a layer, about a 6 foot thick layer of clay, which is a different water system than the one that's above it. And the most amazing neutral, safe water you've ever seen coming out of the ground. And it's apparently inexhaustible, but I really think, and this is something that I want us all to think about, is that one of these days we're going to not be inexhaustible, and we got to start planning for the fact that it's not a bottomless well, and we got to get used to the fact of having water restrictions and how we use the water, because if we run out suddenly, we don't know how much is down there. So that my answer is that we need to keep that in mind as well.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Yep.
Curtis, if you'll allow me just a quick announcement. After you present, if members of the audience want to ask a question, they need to raise their hand, and that's done digitally. You go down to the lower part of your screen. There's a little yellow icon, and you click on it until you see the words raised hand. And then John Carl will alert me if somebody has raised their hand. Curtis, I appreciate your tolerance of this little announcement. It's your turn.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. It's very interesting because Alan is the only member of the Wanacommet Water Commission who's here today, and he has the advantage of knowing the the gallonage, and that was very, very helpful. Rob and I also attended this week's meeting. So at that meeting, Mark, the same question was asked about wells, where they are, what they're doing. And my understanding was that Mark was very comfortable with the not only the quality, but the quantity of water that is available. There is no question, as Rob said and Jill says, we've got to keep monitoring this. But at the present time, my sense is that we do have adequate water to serve the needs of the island. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. I am just checking my participants list. Am I correct that Rick Atherton has a question?
Yes.
Please, Rick. Rick, if you're there, you're muted. I can't hear you. You're coming up now. Still muted. John Carl, can you unmute Rick?
I have asked him to unmute, so he has to accept that. He has to unmute himself.
Rick, did you hear that?
I did. I clicked a button on the lower left. Am I live now, Lee?
You are. Go for it. Is it for all four or just one?
It's for all four, although I think Curtis Barnes answered it. I have long been a proponent of transparency in government, and I'm aware that for many years, and this is long before COVID, the water company apparently declined to tape their meetings and make them available to the public. And I would like to ask each of the candidates for water commissioners if they would commit to support taping the water company's board meetings. And if no one else takes action at the first meeting after the election, that they will make an appropriate motion to make sure that the commissioners vote on such an action and hopefully are positive, and that all future board meetings of the commission will be available to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Very quickly, we'll go back to alphabetical order. Curtis? You're on mute.
I'm unmuted.
You have done. Thank you.
That, my friend, is one of the reasons I am running for water commissioner. I learned that they apparently don't even have regular monthly meetings. I have been trying to find minutes. Other commissions and committees post their minutes in draft, and then they are an agenda item to be approved. My understanding is that they skip meetings, and I haven't been able to see any of the minutes, and I am going to, before the election, go up and request an appointment to sit down and read them. That would be the first item on my agenda, and Rick knows it because I've talked with him about it. So absolutely, transparency, regularity. It is not an exception to all the rest of the protocols on this island. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Rob?
Yeah, thank you. In my experience, the meetings have always been public, especially with Wisconsin Water. In the last 2 years, we've been having them at Wannacomet. They've all been posted. They've all been completely open to the public, and the minutes are available. I'm sorry that there are two people now who are saying that visibility isn't there. In my experience, it's always been there. And the meeting that we went to the other day, that Curtis was there and Alan was there, we had a discussion about making those meetings televised. So that's in the process. And just as an aside, I attended that meeting as a current member of the commission, because I'm still a commissioner of Wisconsin Water, and I consider myself an incumbent. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Alan?
Thank you, Lee. We discussed at our meeting on Thursday the same issue. I also have heard from Rick and from Curtis. First of all, we have met every month for the last, I don't know how many years I've been on the commission, with the exception of the pandemic. And we did skip, I believe it was 2, possibly a 3rd meeting, because there were no contracts, there was nothing for us to sign and so on. I agree that the meetings need to be broadcast. We need to record the meetings, and we discussed this again at Thursday's meeting. I discussed it at some length afterwards with the director of the water company, and he's promised that we will figure out how to use the equipment to get it online so we can record it. We do have the capability, and by the way, I take full responsibility for not having it up on particularly over the last month. However, I would add that in all the years that I've been on the commission, I think there have only been 2 or maybe 3 instances that we've ever had public comment come in. But nonetheless, that's no reason not to have all the minutes, which are always taken, are always available once the meeting is completed, and to have it either broadcast or taped so it can be shown later.
Thank you, Alan. Jill.
Hi, thank you. I mean, of course, transparency is very important. And I think the water company is actually doing a very good job of being transparent with the results of their testing. So I really admire the water company. I think they do an awesome job. I know Mark would do anything he can to bring more information to people. He does that. That's how I've learned a lot of information, because he is so accessible. People like Alan, so accessible. And that's why I want to be on the board. I want to be one of those persons to be out there and actually to help deliver that news to people when you just are here living and working on Nantucket. I think it's important. So the more they can do to put things up electronically, I think that's great. But I don't think that there's anything hiding at the water company. I think that they work really hard, and I actually think the best public service on the island is at the water company, and I really applaud them who work there. So thank you.
Thank you, Jill. A quick comment to Peter Morrison. We're almost on time, but your schedule says 1 minute for each and a closing statement, and I will afford candidates that opportunity, but there was no time slot for that on the schedule. It's going to put us slightly delayed. And I don't need to talk, the candidates do. It's closing statement time, reverse alphabetical order. Jill, please.
Okay. Thank you. Well, again, I'm really eager to run. I'm eager to be part of this board. It's such an important time for the community and for reaching out to all the homeowners who are having fears about their water, not capacity, but for the PFAS issue. And we have got to assuage their fears, whether the airport commission does it or not. The water company needs to. I know that they're willing, and we need to be able to take water to those who want it. And if those who want it also have a need for it because of a compromised well or compromised water in their area because of what's going on, then we need to be able to mitigate those costs and work with them, and not just work with them closely on the financial aspect, but quickly. You know, government, again, can get bogged down. It can use all the excuses in the world, but Nantucket is so good, I think, at communicating with the public and trying to get information to them. And I just want to be on the front lines to assure people that they're going to get clean and fresh water as soon as they need it. So thank you. I appreciate your time, and good luck to my colleagues.
Thank you, Jill. Alan.
Yes. You know, the community faces so many challenges right now with development going on, with new roads, and with all the issues that we have. I've always thought that the Wanacoma Water Company was one of the best run of the town departments. I've always found it to be responsive. I've always felt the leadership of the water department has been first rate. And we work closely with the other town departments, with the sewer department, for example, with the DPW, with whatever departments we need to work with, which involves pretty much all of them. The importance of clean, safe drinking water is essential to a healthy community. And the most recent issue, the PFAS issue, which we're, as I said before, are dealing with directly, the capacity issues, the issue of saltwater intrusion along the edges of the island, for example, in Nantucket, when we put water in Nantucket, when we put water in along Hummock Pond Road. These were all ventures that were promoted within the water company and received by the town. So we've been doing a lot of planning, a lot of forward looking at the Water Commission as we are today looking at the future challenges of development on the island.
Thank you, Alan. Rob Benchley, final words.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. My idea is one of continuity, and like I said, I've been on the Wisconsin Water Board for many years, and my desire is to keep doing that. We have to keep Wisconsin represented, even though it's an entirely disconnected system. It's not connected in any way with the town system, and I'm not looking forward to the day that gets reconnected. They do get connected, because that'll mean we'll have a lot of development going on. But anyway, my reasons for continuing to run have to do with a passion for the water business and the people that drink our water. So thanks.
Thank you, Rob. And Curtis, your valedictory comments, please.
I just want to reemphasize that the very first thing I said today was that I think the water company is doing a great job. As a member of the Town Government Study Committee that we've been working for almost 2 years, I just want to help them do a better job. And as Rick said, and as I've said, I think increased transparency will help the community understand what's going on, and it will let us do that job well. I again remind everyone, I will ask for the write-in position as a 2-year member of the board. I would defer to my esteemed colleagues, let them work for 3 years. I think we can get a lot done with a 2-year term. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. And that concludes Water Commission candidacies. We're going to go directly to school committee, but let me just put in a quick side comment. Members of the attendees group, if in listening to these, you have a question for any candidate, we will have an open session at the close. In other words, after Community Preservation Committee, I will be asking, does anybody have any question for any candidate? And that would then open it up. So that means candidates, you have to decide whether to stick around for what may or may not be a question, or you may conclude, I'm done for the day. But in any event, let's go to school committee. Laura Gallagher, Byrne, Esmeralda Martinez, and Stephen Sortovic. And all three of you, as a former teacher, I'm aware of how difficult it can be if somebody gets your name pronounced incorrectly. By all means, when I introduce you, make sure that everybody knows how it should have been pronounced. So opening statements, alphabetical order. Laura Gallagher, Byrne, if you would be so kind as to lead off. We know that Laura's here.
Am I good? Great. Thank you. And you pronounced my name perfectly. Thank you.
All right.
My name is Laura Gallagher Byrne, and I am currently the artistic director and founder of the Dreamland Stage Company and director of theater and education at the Nantucket Dreamland Foundation. As an educator, I hold a Master of Arts in Theater Education from Emerson College, and I am completing.
Laura, you'll get a chance to get that back. John Carl, can we do a full face for Laura? Right now, you're sharing the schedule. And Peter, please restore 15 seconds to the clock.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
It's still showing share screen.
Yes.
I'm not in control. There we go. And now Laura, if you'd be so kind.
Absolutely. I'm not seeing full screen, but maybe everybody else is.
No, it's not. And I'm trying to figure out why.
It looks like it's.
Yeah, so am I. It says I'm not sharing, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Should I forward John or no?
Yeah, yes, please, because we're tightly scheduled. John Carl will try and fix this.
All right. So as I said, I am the artistic director and founder of Dreamland Stage Company, and I am director of theater and education at the Nantucket Dreamland Foundation. As an educator, I hold a Master of Arts in Theater Education from Emerson College, and I'm completing an MFA program also at Emerson in Applied Theater, where I'm researching the application of theater as a tool for empathy in the classroom. I received my undergraduate degree in musical theater performance from Shenandoah University. Before joining the Dreamland Foundation in 2017, I taught chorus and drama at Cyrus Pierce Middle School for 12 years. And in 2011, I was honored to receive the Advocacy for Children Award. In 2017, I served on the board of delegates of the Big Umbrella Theater Symposium in New York City at Lincoln Center, which explored the intersection of the arts and autism. And in 2018, I was part of a team of educators gathered to rewrite the theater curriculum for the Massachusetts Department of Education and Frameworks. On a personal note, I am married to Byrne, and we have a son, Phineas, who is currently a junior at Nantucket High School. And this week, actually, marks my 23rd year as a year-round resident. I am running for school committee because I know that our first priority must be the mental health and wellness of our students and staff. I have spent the past 20 years of my professional life in theater and education and have seen firsthand the benefits of the application of the arts in the classroom. I am committed to supporting the social and emotional health and well-being of our students, as I believe we are charged with the duty to prepare this next generation of learners for lives of meaning. I thank you for this opportunity to be of service.
Laura, if I may be so familiar, thank you. We move on now to Esmeralda Martinez. Esmeralda?
Buenas tardes. I'm here. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can, and we can see you.
Perfect. Buenas tardes again. Good afternoon. Thank you to the Nantucket Civic League for hosting this Zoom meeting and for giving me the opportunity to explain why I'm asking for your vote. For those that don't know me, I am Esmeralda Martinez. I am excited to be running for school committee. As a parent of 3 children with 2 attending the Nantucket Public Schools, education is always and will be a priority for me. I myself am a Nantucket graduate of class of 2005, and I have lived here for most of my life. I have a lot to offer. I would ensure that all students capitalize on Nantucket's promise of both excellence, equity in their education. I'm passionate about education, coming from parents that immigrated from Central America in the 80s from a war-stricken country. Me being a first-generation American makes me appreciate what opportunities have been given to me. Watching my parents struggle through trying to communicate with the school and trying to give me a great education and making sure I wouldn't fall through the cracks of the school system. I am first in my family to ever attend college. I want to be an advocate for the voice of our community. I want to build trust and collaboration across and within the schools and community at large. I want to promote advocacy for families and students with IEPs as also a strong bullying program and plans towards COVID recovery for social, emotional, and academic needs for families and students. To be an effective member of the school committee will require collaboration, creative thinking, and understanding of the day-to-day issues. One of the most important and valuable skills that I possess is that I listen and I want to amplify all community voices and support and expand program to support the multicultural. Thank you.
Thank you, Esmeralda.
Thank you.
Now, Steve Sortovic. Steve, I know you're here.
I should be familiar with this unmuting button with all the school committee meetings and elsewise. Anyway, please start the clock now.
We've got you.
That's not me.
Neville, if you could mute your microphone, please.
Me?
It sounded like the sound was coming from you. No, mute, please. There we go. Steve, your turn.
Thank you. Very briefly on my experience and background, I taught for 35 years, 24 of those at Cyrus Pierce. I have a master's in education and a Juris Doctorate. I am delighted, first of all, to see that our students are all now back in person after 14 months and are expected to be in September, although I think DESE is going to require that they still be masked. Our students have suffered so extensively over the last 14 months of remote learning, not just educationally, but also socially and emotionally, that I think we need to focus on the coming year. We need much more robust remediation than I have heard is already in the works. Significant increases in support for all of our students, but most especially including our minority students who were, I learned on the school committee, were already behind the rest of our students. There's much that needs to be done there. Fortunately, being retired and having some computer skills have allowed me enough time to extensively read, research, and even create. I created and administer the dashboard for COVID that we have up on the website every week. And I expect to continue doing that sort of thing. Most recently, 2 studies came up on my computer that strongly encourage full-time tutoring during the school day, all 5 days of the week. I am a great believer that our students need in-person assistance, face-to-face, small groups, 1 or 2 at a time, and it has to be extensive. The conundrum is the financing that will be required to do that, to increase the staffing, and outside help will be needed from the town and possibly elsewhere. And one of my first priorities will be working with the town. We have, if I still have a few seconds, we have significant amounts of money coming in from the state and the feds, but that's only for one-time spending. It's not ongoing, can't be considered part of our operational budget. So it's the operational budget that we need to look at. In the meantime, that funding from the state and the feds could be spent for tutoring, could be spent for bringing in 1-year contracted social workers, psychologists to work with the kids who have suffered socially and emotionally. How'd I do for timing, Peter?
Well, while Peter looks at his watch. We're going to move to Josh, who's got a question for each of the three of you. We'll lead alphabetically, and so we turn back to Laura. But Josh first.
Thanks. With the full return to in-class learning, what type of remediation and assistance is going to be necessary to address more than a year of hybrid and at-home learning that Steve just referenced? How should it be paid for and accomplished?
Thank you. Laura?
Thank you. So I think that, as Steve has said, and as I think we all have expressed, that while, yes, there has been a great deal of learning loss, it's the social piece that is the one that I believe that we need to address with our students. There has been so much research about the higher incidences of teen suicide and depression, and it's a very real issue that we are going to have to deal with. So in terms of financially, I think there will be a lot to explore. I believe that our community will support bringing in remediators, bringing in additional social workers. We already do not have enough caregivers in that industry. So I think it's really important that all of us focus on that social piece. I also think there are members of this community that we are maybe at this point unaware of that would be willing to step in, that have a background in social and emotional learning and training. And for me, I feel that is really what I am focusing on, is that social piece, their wellness and mental health for our young people.
Thank you. Esmeralda, same question.
I will agree with Laura, same thing. Social, emotional help is needed. And financially, that will be an issue. Hopefully it will be remediated. But yes, I'm totally agreeing with what she just said. There's a lot of planning that needs to be done for this to work. So I agree. I'm lost for words, but yes, there's a lot of emotional social work that needs to be done for these kids and for everybody, for the teachers as well. Being out of school for 14 months, like Mr. Sordovic said, is a lot for the kids. They need the social help that can be offered.
Thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, we can begin this process coming in from the feds and the state. My understanding is we've already received 400,000 from the state. There's another million coming from the feds, and that money could be used in the coming year for social workers, additional, it would have to be contract counseling, fair winds. I even opened up the phone book and took a look, and there are other psychologists and social workers in Nantucket. We need to reach out to bring more people in. In the longer term, if the Prop 2.5 override for our island home passes, Brian, in his presentation to the select board of budget, indicated that one of the areas that should be looked at is additional funding for the schools. That funding could go into our operational budget and be used long-term for hiring contracted teaching assistants, even teachers, although at this point, with the tutoring and the one-to-one and small group needs, I'd be leaning toward teaching assistants. And we would have a very diverse group of people right here on Nantucket who could step into that. The word is not coming to me. Gap, would that work? And that could be long-term.
Stephen, thank you. Jason will ask the next question, and Stephen, you'll be up because we'll go in reverse alphabetical order.
Understood.
Sure. Hi to all the candidates, and thanks for being here. I was watching a recent school committee meeting where the plans for the expansion of the athletic fields and the facilities was presented to the board. They talked about, the price tag, $10 million. And one thing that caught my eye was the types of fields that are going to be installed, these synthetic turf fields. And we've heard a lot of controversy about them over on the Vineyard. There's a big debate going on right now about the installation of a synthetic turf field, given what we know and maybe don't know about the chemicals used in making these plastic fields, PFAS and others. Do you support moving forward with the installation of synthetic turf fields over a natural grass surface, and this project as it was presented to the school committee recently?
Jason, first of all, nice to meet you in person, as it were, finally. We've had some email communications about COVID and such when he was at the hospital. I don't know yet, to tell you the truth. It's on my list of additional questions to ask about those materials. I understand the difficulties we've had in the past with grass fields, but I'm also aware of the concerns of the synthetics. And so I have a list of questions and I'm going to ask them before I can offer my full support for that part of the plan.
Thank you, Steve. Esmeralda.
So with the athletic fields, I believe what they're doing, it's great. And I believe the turf fields will be very beneficial because it will allow the fields to maintain open year round. It would cut cost on maintenance. As for the chemicals and what exactly they're using to make those turf fields out of, me personally, I don't foresee an issue since they're used everywhere around the country. You see them, I know Logan Airport has a big field out in East Boston, which they use all the time and they're able to be used year round. So I feel like they're super beneficial. It's great that they're adding all these fields. So, but I guess it would be questionable exactly what material they'll be using.
Thank you. And finally, Laura.
So for such a large expenditure, I think that a lot more research would need to be done. I think we would want to speak with Martha's Vineyard and see what their experience has been, as well as others that have been using these chemicals. I think there is real concern. We find things out much later about chemicals and things that we thought were perfectly fine and benign, and then they come to find out, in fact, they were anything but. And just as a sidebar, Steve, you probably will remember this, when I was still teaching, when they redid our auditorium, and I remember the people from Martha's Vineyard came over to look at our auditorium to see what not to do for theirs. So I think we can benefit from the input of others that have already introduced this into their settings.
Thank you. At this particular moment, I see no questions from attendees, but we'll offer the opportunity for them to click on the button that says raise hand. I'll give you 10 seconds, 12 seconds to do so, at which point, candidates, it would be your closing final statement. Laura, if you'd be so kind as to lead off with a final statement.
I will indeed. So in closing, I am running for school committee because I want our students, families, and staff to have a voice in decisions that are made for them. As stated in a recent article in the Lancet Children and Adolescent Health Journal, many young people around the world currently have substantially fewer opportunities to interact face-to-face with peers in their social network at a time in their lives when this is crucial for their development. Several months represents a large portion of a young person's life. We would urge policymakers to give urgent consideration to the well-being of young people at this time. So the fact is, our kids need community, they need interaction, and they are going to need to be able to make sense of this past year. who they are, what they went through, and to have the tools to imagine a future with courage and confidence. I want them to feel like they are just getting started. And I would be honored to serve the students, staff, and families of Nantucket.
Thank you, Laura. Esmeralda, final statement, please.
If elected as member of the Nantucket School Committee, I will ask in-depth questions about policy, programs, so that we as a community understand the value that they will bring to the classroom. I will encourage the proposal of new initiative to improve the education of our children. I will listen and reflect the concerns of our community and work collaboratively with fellow committee members to improve our schools. I will bring this passion and knowledge and curiosity to our school committee, and it will be my mission to inspire us all, parents, teachers, administrators, and elected officials, to do the best possible job of creating the environment where our kids will empower to reach their full potential. I strongly believe a school committee representative should represent the demographic of the student body population, as well have children in the school system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Esmeralda. And Steve, I think I used the word valedictory once before, but the final word, please.
I was not one of those in any of my education. First, let me say, please have a look at the advertisements I'm going to run in the Inky Mirror the last couple of Thursdays. I have many more concerns that I want to follow up on, not the least of which is communication with our community from the school committee level. But I want to emphasize how important I think it is that we have actual human beings working on this remediation and assistance with our kids. I have heard some of the plans that they're going to have the teachers, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, combine the 2 years of education, what they missed, with what they should be getting in the year they're moving into. They're calling it advanced education. Well, something's going to be left out if that happens. And I think the only way we're going to get kids caught up is by actually having adults working with them. And that's why I'm going to press so hard. In closing, I want to agree with Esmeralda about one thing. You got to ask the questions, hard questions, and they deserve good answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, candidates. We will be inviting the audience to ask questions at the end. At the moment, I don't see any, and so we'll move to the Historic District Commission. 2 candidates for 1 seat. Looking at my list of participants, yes. Moving up just a little bit. There we go. Do we have Diane Coombs and Stephen Welch with us? If yes, please say so, and we'll get you on camera. Diane? No.
Steve appears on the list with no camera, Lee.
Hello, Lee. I'm here.
That's
Thanks,
Stephen.
Josh.
Yes. Okay. So we've got Stephen. Do we have Diane? No. All right. There are still 2 candidates for 1 seat, but only 1 candidate is here. And so, Stephen, if you'd be so kind as to give us your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you to the Civic League for hosting this event. I hope I don't run over. I haven't used the timer on my notes here, but I would like to say good afternoon to everyone. Identify myself. I'm Stephen Welch. I've lived and worked on Nantucket for more than 33 years. I'm a candidate for election to the HDC, as Lee has indicated. Currently, I'm an appointed member. I act on applications when an elected member cannot. I believe the commission has a responsibility to enhance its application review process. specifically to make it more competent, consistent, and convenient. This so that the commission has time to consider relevant and likely future events so that it may better protect and enhance our national historic landmark status. But also so that applicants have clear, reasonable anticipation of our expectations from meeting to meeting and from year to year. To my mind, every application before the commission is an important one, but too often at HTC meetings, and without pointing fingers, we spend too much time offering design advice at the table. And while the effort is well-intentioned, it brings high-level focus to each tree at the expense of the forest. And it's unnecessary. There really are appropriate review procedures with best practices such as pre-established guidelines and checklists and other methods that we can create and adopt in order to process applications more efficiently and with better diligence. This again, to allow time for the commission to focus on the protection of the core districts, our national historic landmark status, and of course, to create adequate time for diligent review of historic structures. I've been working along these lines, but with limited capability as an appointed versus elected member. In my relatively brief time involved, I have helped make the process more competent, consistent, and convenient, saving commissioner staff, and applicants quite literally hundreds of hours of repetitive tasks, discussion, and I dare say frustration. Some examples of contributions include a set of comprehensive guidelines for placement of outdoor HVAC system components, which were becoming a pox on historic buildings. The guidelines establish policies to blend and disappear the equipment without being unduly restrictive. I initiated and coordinated review, voting, and publishing of a comprehensive list of approvable roof shingle colors. And while this may seem minor, it has saved applicants and the commissions many hours and prevented a lot of misery. Oftentimes a roof application will come in and a trade is lined up and they need to get the work done. And unfortunately, it's not always with a good amount of lead time or planning. So we've been able to expedite those roof colors that are approvable and move forward without tying up the application review process. Another area to the same effect is, after a deep dive into the history of Nantucket fences, the recommendation and adoption of a set of guidelines to provide applicants and commissioners guidance on the types and placements of fences, which again has saved many hours, a lot of frustration, and certainly some angst for applications. I did not accomplish these things alone, but with the support and assistance of the commission. Lee, if I may, just a couple more quick, I'm not sure where I am on the time.
Well, that will be up to Peter, and he hasn't rung the bell yet, so
okay,
do your
great.
Walter Winchell and get 60 words per minute.
I'm going in there. I also, I just want to kind of footnote a couple other accomplishments that I'm pleased to have been involved in or done on my own. I created the first known word searchable version of Building with Nantucket in Mind. And I developed the HTC mission statement, taking it from the Act for the HTC's website. That statement includes a clarification of the HTC's background and responsibilities.
I think we have to call time. The bell
Okay.
apparently hasn't been heard because it was muted, but yeah, you're way over. We just have to stop right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So the first questioner will be Jason. Am I right? Because Josh, you went the last time.
That's correct. Just ask a quick question, Lee. In the past, when we have had only a single candidate appear, we have foregone the questions out of fairness to the other candidate, but I'm completely open to whatever everybody wants to do.
If it's all right with Steve, you and Jason probably have several intelligent questions, and that gives him an opportunity to speak a little bit more, still within the schedule. Is that okay with you?
Perfectly fine.
Good. Okay. I think it's Jason.
Yep.
Yeah. Hi, Stephen. Thanks for being here. And, you know, I think you hit on what I was going to ask you here a little bit in your opening, but, you know, two things really strike me when it comes to the HDC in terms of one being efficiency of the meetings, which you hit on, but also, you know, consistency in decision-making by the commission, where, one applicant, and it's somewhat of the nature of an elected board where members change and opinions change, but really maybe can you drill down a little bit on how the commission can be more efficient and consistent in its decisions for different applicants and the projects. And I know that there's a huge amount of pressure on the HDC. It's getting inundated with many applications, but can you touch on those a little bit more and drill down on how, as a member, you could really address that?
Sure, happy to. Thank you. I think that I'll go back to the concept of best practices. Organizational processes are kind of my forte, and developing checklists and predetermined guidelines for situations, pretty much any application that comes in, based upon building with Nantucket in mind versus our individual recollection of what history is. So we're actually using history as the guidelines versus what we think history is, gives us an opportunity to kind of do a triage. And by that, I mean, we can, if a fence or a roof meets the guidelines, meets the checklist, it can go on our consent list. Our consent list is voted at the beginning of the meeting. It does not mean it's an automatic approval. It means that it's something that each commissioner can review in advance online. And if they have a question or concern, they can pull it to be heard during the regular meeting. I think that there is a host of other areas in addition to approvable roof colors, in addition to HVAC systems and fences, where we could be doing more of that. And also, as an elected member, I could be helping to direct discussion away from personal preferences so that we are hitting the bigger issues. And again, not focusing on the trees during the meeting, but starting to move out so we can look at bigger issues. For instance, the recently brought forth Resilient Nantucket flooding the building elevation design guidelines. So there's a lot of areas where we as a commission, I think, have a responsibility, and we need to be focusing while not sacrificing diligence on those other applications.
Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
Josh.
Sure. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks.
If elected, will you vote to let the town retain the temporary office space at the former Pleasant Street Fire Station when its approval expires in September?
I believe that first of all, I did not sit on that application when it was originally approved. I would have voted against it. However, I believe that it is appropriate given the fact that the town had a temporary approval, which is to say it's not a permanent structure on in the sense of place for that particular area. I believe that since the town's plans were interrupted by COVID, that it's both practical and reasonable for the duration of that period, which I would say is about a year at least, to extend the approval. I would like to see that conditioned upon perhaps some landscape screening to break up the visibility. But again, noting it is a temporary approval, then I would vote yes.
Thank you, Steve. We're going to move directly to your final statement. I'm sure you've prepared something.
I've tried here. So a few items of involvement. I did not mention the opening just due to the time. As an HDC representative, I was involved in the Surfside Crossing 4B workshops. I represented the HDC on the Downtown Historic Sidewalk Review. I serve as the HDC Section 106 representative to the federal government in proceedings under National Historic Preservation Act proceedings. I take some pride, although I am under the radar and I try to stay out of the limelight. I've got an opportunity to point out my most recent accomplishment in Section 106 was to identify case law, which was foundational to pushing for multiple millions of dollars in mitigation, in settlement, money for our community to help promote and fund resiliency and to establish a framework for future Section 106 negotiations. And that was with regard to the wind turbines. I authored and supported to help secure Commonwealth of Massachusetts municipal vulnerability preparedness funding, which were received by the town for the important undertaking of coastal and community resiliency planning. In particular, in this instance, with Plus as the lead and Holly Backus, the town's preservation planner, as the HDC's point person. One result of this important funding will be publication in June of the Resilient Nantucket Flooding Adaptation and Building Elevation Design Guidelines, which are timely, comprehensive set of guidelines to be adopted by the HDC as an addendum to building with Nantucket in mind. In closing, I'll say, I've been told by some who've had the pleasure of watching HDC meetings that I'm unbiased in my deliberations and that I'm dedicated, cooperative, assertive, and occasionally succinct. It's also been observed that I have a thorough knowledge of both architecture and construction techniques, which is based on years of field experience. And I am known to be a bit of a doer. Serving is a big commitment of time. I still believe it is, I believe it's a worthwhile investment in our community. And I ask for your vote for me to participate as an elected member of the HDC and ask to please let others you know and respect to do the same. And again, I'd like to thank the Civic League for their time in sponsoring and setting up this event. And I would like to wish Diane the best of luck in the election also. I have a lot of respect for her and her accomplishments at the HDC. Thank you.
Steve, thank you. We're going to move directly to select board. When this forum is finished, we will host questions. If we're running out of time, we will send the questions to the participants for them to respond. So at
Lee,
this
can
point,
you hear me?
Who's speaking?
Peter.
Yes.
I've been ringing the bell, but I think it's been muted.
We don't hear it, Peter. We do not hear it. You'll have to speak up.
Okay.
We're about 10 minutes behind at this point.
Right. Okay.
Some of which was due to a scheduling error on the floor.
Right. I caught that. Okay.
Okay.
Just keep going and we'll.
So let's go to the select board. 3 candidates. Here we go. 3 candidates for 1 seat. And we have Don Hill-Holgate, Megan Glowacki, and Clifford Williams. Starting for the opening statement in alphabetical order, Don Hill-Holgate. If you would be so kind, Don. I know you're here.
I'm here, Lee. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the Civic League for organizing and hosting this event as always. I've had the privilege of serving this community for the past 6 years on the select board, including 3 years with the honor of being the chair. I'm asking to continue for another 3-year term to further the efforts of the board. During my tenure, many initiatives, policies, and projects have moved forward, too many to name in detail today. However, this past year has certainly been like no other, and the select board, along with town administration, the Board of Health, and Public Safety, had to prioritize guiding the community through the pandemic and instituting policies and emergency orders to promote safety, along with creative business adaptations in a continually changing and challenging environment. It has been something I never anticipated, and I'm glad to see the light at the end of the tunnel and feel our island has done very well. As we enter reopening, I very much look forward to bringing back the focus of the board to our numerous initiatives within the strategic plan, among other priorities. Our strategic plan includes categories for housing, transportation, and environmental leadership. And more recently, we added efficiency in town operations and quality of life. I feel we have a very strong collaborative board. The subcommittees are well split, recognizing our different talents. I'm particularly proud of serving on the Community Preservation Committee for all of the past 6 years. The board is aligned in our goals within the strategic plan and have been improving upon them yearly. In the coming term, some of the things I hope to further are home ownership opportunities for year-round residents, in addition to the rental options currently underway. I hope to finalize a plan for both our island home and the senior center and get them underway. I hope to finalize an agreement with the Harbor Place property owners and improve the Highline access and circulation in that area. It is our gateway to the mainland and very important. I hope to improve parking availability in town without any plans for building a parking garage. I hope to further plans for better management of our waste stream as we approach the current contract expiration in 2025. I hope to finalize a master plan for town facilities and offices. I hope to institute our park and recreation master plan, beginning with the Tom Nevers Field, as well as further discussions on possibilities for an indoor community recreational facility. I hope to further discussions on a collaborative human services and behavioral health community plan. I hope to help finalize the coastal resiliency plan for the whole island. I hope to promote greater interest in town government and greater diversity in those who serve. I hope to promote investment in technological advancement. I hope to facilitate community discussion on how to preserve and improve the quality of life for all of our residents and identify initiatives that can be undertaken to further those ideals. I believe that I have the experience and knowledge to effectively further these efforts, along with making sound decisions on daily business items and anything else that might come at us. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And moving right along to Megan Glowacki. Megan, are you on board?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Is it possible to see you?
I'm currently on my phone.
John Carl, it's up to you. Do you have any indication that she has a camera?
I can try to do that. Hold on.
Yes, she does. I just asked her to turn the camera on.
Yep. Just trying to get to the button. Can you see me?
We can now.
Excellent.
You're in your car.
I am in my car. I just received my second COVID vaccine, and so I didn't want to run late, so I figured I'd stay in the car.
Well, congratulations. All
Thank
right.
you.
Your 2 minutes starts now.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you all for doing this and allowing us to participate. My name is Megan Glowacki. Many of you might know me by my maiden name, which is Megan Perry. I'm running for select board because I feel as though I have a certain skill set that could help the board and help our community. I like to think of any board as a team that's working towards a common goal for our community. And I think each team member brings a certain skill set to the team that can be beneficial. I would like to bring my skill set to the team and to the community that I grew up in. I have a strong background in environmental issues, and I feel my understanding of the environment and Nantucket, along with my desire to research, could help the board moving forward and the community moving forward as we're trying to tackle some very serious issues. Some major areas of concern for me would be coastal resiliency across the whole island, the water quality, whether it be in the harbors or it be in drinking water, PFAS in particular, and then mindful development as we look forward to the future of Nantucket and what our community would like that to look like. I think we need to be looking towards long-term sustainability. And as a town and a community, we need to figure out what that is and what that's going to look like, what is in the best interest for the island. And I think we need to listen to the community on that. I've never been one who is shy for speaking my mind, even if it's not popular. So I hope to bring that to the board in a positive way. And I think my ability to do research and really track everything down to the best of my abilities will help the community in our issues that we looking towards and the serious issues the community is facing. So look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. Clifford Williams, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. And we can see you too, Cliff.
Great. Clifford Williams. I'd like to thank the Civic League and you, Lee, and Peter Morrison, who seem to spearhead these things. I've lost track of how many times I've run. Basically, I've been on the finance committee, or I was on the finance committee for 9 years. I've been involved in town government for about 10. I was on the fire station committee off and on, Island Home Committee. I think I bring a broad range of experiences in the aviation business. I'm a developer. I've been in construction most of my life. One of the main reasons I continue to run is just to, I guess, to bring light to a lot of these issues that seem to go on year after year. Don kind of hit on a few of them. The island home. We're back to the problems with the beaches and access to beaches. I don't know why we're going in the wrong direction with that. Affordable housing. I've recently have at least two different articles. My sister has an article to deal with the charter for the town. Then the landfill, as far as trying to incinerate or gasify, or just come up with a philosophy of what we're going to do with the landfill. And we're really running out of time. I think that has to be addressed in the next year, or we're going to be in trouble. So I just continue to harp on these subjects and focus on these subjects and run to try and make a difference. And hopefully we can finally get something done and have a sunset clause maybe on some of these issues as we go forward in the town, versus just continue on and on year after year without any real closure. So that's why I continue to run. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Our questions from our esteemed panelists. Josh, I believe it's your turn.
Thank you. How involved should the select board be in the creation of affordable housing? What methods or strategies should it undertake to accomplish that?
And we'll go alphabetical. The next round will be reverse alphabet. Sorry, no, we will do reverse alphabet now. So it's back to you, Cliff.
All right, can you say the question again? I'm unmuted now, so I think you muted me or something. Go ahead, what was the question again? Sorry.
How involved should the select board be in the creation of affordable housing, and what methods or strategies should it undertake to accomplish that?
I think we talked about this when we met yesterday, Squire and Mara. The town of Nantucket probably does more than anybody else for affordable housing. I think what we really need to do is, when it comes to affordable housing, I think we need to come up with a public-private partnership where there's more of a deal where there's ownership involved, versus just renting. Especially when it comes to employees for the town, I think that's where we should focus first. When it comes to workforce housing, as they put it, I think we should focus primarily on police, fire, teachers, and really get a handle on that, but somehow come up with a philosophy of ownership and partnership versus just trying to rent, because even I think we've failed in a lot of different projects as far as affordable renting, where it doesn't really seem to be too affordable. And we're giving up the land, we're giving up a lot of resources, and then we come up with the same problem of it really not being affordable. So I'd focus on things being more affordable and partnership of ownership, if we could.
Thank you, Clifford. Megan.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent. I think the housing issue on Nantucket is not something new, but I do think it is a very serious issue and something that we do need to look into and pay attention to. I am a big fan of the housing bank bill that is up in Boston, and I think that's something that we should continue to follow up on and encourage at the state level to see if that's something we can bring to Nantucket. I think it's a very clever idea. Additionally, I think that a few of the articles for town meeting this year are also very clever in how we might be able to deal with the housing issue and workforce housing in particular.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And now Dawn. I'm sorry, Megan, were you still speaking? I could see movement, but I couldn't hear anything.
No, I'm all set. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Dawn Hill-Holgate, please.
Thank you, Lee. This has been a really important issue since the beginning of my time in office. And I think we've made a lot of great strides in our community. We've created the housing specialist position in the housing office. We're at a point where housing has to have some form of subsidy or restriction to really be able to meet the needs of the community. And this is not only a Nantucket problem, it's a problem in a lot of affluent communities. We've obviously made quite a few strides in recent time of purchase of land, and I think it's important to have, as Clifford said, public-private partnerships. I believe that we should work with private development and private management to effectively manage these units. We have made great strides in actually getting to our SHI numbers and staying in safe harbor. I signed this past week a letter that will keep us in safe harbor for the next year, and we have plans to continue that for a number of years. However, I think that on Nantucket, there is an even larger problem, and that's why I mentioned that we really need to promote home ownership opportunities for our year-round residents. And I think that that can be done in a variety of different ways, including a down payment assistance program and expansion of the covenant program. I'm about to get buzzed. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Don. And our next set of questions comes from, or a single set of questions for the three of you, comes from Jason Gretziadek.
Hi, everyone. Hi to the candidates. I'd like to get you all on the record talking about short-term rentals. I think there's been a ton of discussion about Article 90 at town meeting. And we know the select board had voted 3-0 to support the finance committee's negative recommendation on that article. But it also said that it supports a thorough review of the impact on short-term rentals on the community. So give us your assessment. What is the impact of short-term rentals on the island community? And should the town be doing something or anything regarding restricting them or regulating them in any way?
So we'll go back to alphabetical order. Even though Dawn just finished, she may start again.
Thank you, Lee. Just to be clear, I do have a conflict with this in terms of taking a position as a select board member, because I do work for an office that does short-term rentals. However, I believe that I can state my personal opinion. And I think that the warrant article is a bit ahead of itself. I think we have to go back to the fundamental question of what problem we're trying to fix. It tries to encompass a number of different restrictions into it. And I don't think that they have really clearly identified which problem and how best to improve upon it. I think part of that comes back to my suggestion of having more community discussion on quality of life and what that means, because I think many of these things have to do with kind of standard neighborhood issues that could come from both short-term and long-term neighbors. And I think that we could take a look very clearly in terms of regulation on all rentals as well, if we're looking into safety and security type of pieces of it. And I'm going to get buzzed again.
Okay, Megan, please.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. I think that we need to keep in mind that the island is not just about real estate, and we can't run the island as though it's just mostly short-term rentals. That being said, I think this was a very bold and brave article, and it was bold and brave to bring it up. I'm not sure that the article is fully ready for print yet, but I do appreciate the topic, and I do appreciate that it's now being discussed in the community. Whether you're for it or against it, I think it brought the issue to the surface that we all need to think about and see how we're going to move forward as a community with this issue. So I'm not sure if that answers everything. If I've left something off, just let me know.
Okay, well, thank you. Clifford,
Thank you.
please.
Yes, unfortunately, I think it's a double-edged sword, and unfortunate, like everything else in Nantucket, where a lot of people probably rely, the average person that's not very wealthy relies on short-term rentals. Some of these big, in my opinion, corporate people or very wealthy people have jumped on the bandwagon because short-term rentals have become very lucrative. And then when you get into the issue of short-term rentals and what it means and the level of safety and the inspections, like I said, it's really going to open up a can of worms. And like everything else we face in Nantucket, it's just, I think it's an unfortunate situation. Like I said, because a lot of people really relied on that short-term money. And and then some people have turned it into a big business. So it needs to be approached very slowly, I believe, as Don has mentioned, and so we don't hurt anybody that really, like I said, relies on the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. All right, I've been doing this for a while, but I think we've had both of our expert questioners. I think it's now time for final statements. And we'll go backwards. Clifford, if you do your final statement, please.
Sure, like I said, we have a lot of issues. Like I said, the landfill, the island home, the obvious ones. You guys mentioned water. When I was on the finance committee, I always posed that question. Everybody worried about sewer, but do we really have an endless supply of water? That's a great question. One of the articles that's been voted on at the town meeting that's driven me a little crazy is the mediation board and the whole charter and who it represents. If you watch the meeting we had with the Government Study Committee on 5/16/2019, we discussed those issues, and still nothing's really been done. I think a lot of people are frustrated with the government and don't feel like they're represented. This has been reflected in a lot of issues. I think the African Meeting House really got out of control, because I think if we had a better handle on that and we had that mediation board, we could have stopped things like that from happening. So I really think that we should focus on who we represent or who the town represents, and not just look at it as a big business. They need to listen to the people more. We need to focus on these issues. The landfill, like I said, the island home, and get some closure. Thank you.
Thank you, Clifford. Megan, please.
Thank you. In closing, I would just like to say I look forward to tackling some of these issues and that are facing the island. And I think my ability to be an independent thinker will help the community with a lot of these very difficult decisions that we have to make as we move forward with the future of the island and figuring out how our community would like that to look. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. Dawn, if you'd be so kind as to give us final words.
Oh, thank you, Lee, and thank you to the Civic League and all who participated and watched this forum today. If anyone was uncomfortable asking me a question, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I welcome input from the community and questions, and my email address is available on the town's website. I truly hope and look forward to continuing to serve on behalf of you all if I'm elected for a third term. I really feel the board is poised to hit the ground running in our post-pandemic efforts in fiscal year 2022, and I'm really enthusiastic about continuing the work and helping take care of Nantucket, a place that I've called home for my whole life. Thanks.
Thank you. We turn now to the Nantucket Island Land Bank. I'll note that we are about 12 to 14 minutes behind. And so we're trying to give all candidates their promised time. And I'm trying to keep my tongue in my mouth and introduce Howard Dickler and Neil Patterson for the Nantucket Island Land Bank. Howard, if you'd start with your opening statement, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee. Good afternoon, everyone. The Land Bank has made transformative changes to the island in its 38-year life. Open space has been protected, harbor and beach access has been protected, agricultural land has been protected. My thoughts turn to the future and whether or not the Land Bank can continue to be transformative in the years ahead. I contend that it should be. It has an enormous budget, a budget that's equal to 25% of the entire town budget every year. That's on average. The current fiscal year, which ends June 30th, their income will be $40 million. That's real serious money, and it can be transformative. What could it be used for? Let's talk about three possibilities. One is this island sorely needs a comprehensive year-round indoor sports and recreation facility. for the health of the island, for the mental health of the island, to give young people and young adults a place to go in the long, dreary months. It would be transformative for the island. If the land bank can build a large, well-appointed clubhouse for the golf course, it can build such a facility. The secondary area would be ponds. Ponds are making incremental progress with the Pond Coalition and the land bank. But the land bank can bring millions to bear on this issue. It can remove the nutrients that are settled at the bottom of the ponds. It can remove the phragmites. It could restore our ponds in the near term, not down the road. It would be transformative. And lastly, we should think about housing, because everybody has to play a role in solving the housing problem. And the land bank can contribute without spending a single dollar. The Martha's Vineyard Land Bank, by contrast, and operating under the same rules, has acquired land for housing by cooperating with the town. Ours could do the same. It would be transformational. And going forward, we need to rethink the land bank and re-envision what it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Neil Patterson, please. Neil.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, and we can see you.
Oh, good. Thank you. A bonus for both. Thank you. Thank you to the Civic League for organizing this. I am a candidate for re-election. I've had the privilege to serve for 10 years on the land bank, and the last 5 I've been chair. I've lived on Nantucket since 1979. I've raised my family here. I've a business here, and I'm greatly engaged in the community. I've served on quite a few appointed boards, fire department, ambulance driver. I've been a very active chair, sometimes probably to the annoyance of the staff, but I feel we've got an awful lot accomplished in the last 10 years. And I've also greatly enjoyed working with the staff and my fellow board members who, the chemistry is great on the land bank board. And I think we've done a lot of good for the whole community. And I feel we have significantly improved the lives of everyone on Nantucket. We've got, for instance, 3 parks underway right now. They're all handicapped accessible. We've got playgrounds, we've got golf, and I'm committed to the land bank mission. I'm conservation, open space, agriculture, hunting, golf. It's all part of what we do. And the other thing, and I think Megan touched on it, coastal resiliency. That is something that we can be very actively employed in to help the town. And we've had a great relationship with the town in my time as chair and as a board. I've got the time, the passion, and a record to continue serving. I take it very seriously. I'm accessible to anybody. And I ask people to judge me on what I put into this. Again, thank you. I'll look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Neil. And we're turning now to the questions. I believe it's Jason's turn to start off.
Sure. Thanks, Lee. And hi, Howard. Hi, Neil. I think we've all heard the land bank's name in the news probably more than we ever have the last couple of months with Article 97. So I think we've seen Neil, articulate your viewpoints on it and your op-ed, but give us your perspective on this article, and Howard, do you support it? Do you not support it? You mentioned using land bank funds in your opening statement for housing. Do you support Article 97? Why or why not? And give us some perspective on how this discussion has gone in the community around this issue of sort of reallocating land bank funding.
I think that's an important question. Actually, I suggested that the land bank help housing without spending a dollar, just by taking a careful look at all their purchases. As far as Article 97, I'm a supporter. I'm a co-sponsor of that article. I think it asks for a portion of the land bank funds, and I think the land bank can afford it. At this point in time, the question of housing is of overriding importance, and the countervailing use of coastal resilience is in the future and important, but housing has to come first.
Thank you, Howard. Neil, I apologize. I was going to go in reverse alphabetical order. It didn't happen. Neil, it's your turn. You may still be muted.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
A moment. I was saying the shame of this article is it's really pitted two incredibly worthwhile, important organizations against each other. And I'm not going to support removing 25%. It's been called a minor amount. 25% is not a minor amount. 25% on any business will have dramatic, circumstances going down the road. And there's still a lot to do on Nantucket. I feel that, the $40 million, we do have a lot of money in the bank, and it is the millions. The word millions, a friend of mine once said to me, I hate the way millions rolls off your tongue like it doesn't mean anything. It does, but the average for the last 10-year average was $20 million a year is what we took in. The last year, the COVID year, dramatic increase. For whatever reason, people want to invest here. Well, I can see why. It's an amazing place. I think I've voted for every override to date for affordable housing myself. I'm a commercial taxpayer. I'm going to vote for every single article to give them more money. The line item in the town budget for $2 million, greatly admire that. That's very proactive from the select board, but I'm not going to vote to take away 25% of something that can benefit everybody in conjunction with housing, which is vital. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Josh, you get a question, and Neil, you'll lead off. Josh first.
Thank you. Gentlemen, define as you understand and interpret it, the land bank's mission and the commission's role in ensuring that it's followed.
Thank you, Josh. We've basically got the three pillars of sort of open space recreation, and then we have a special side, act for golf. Did I say agriculture was the third one? Anyway, golf, we're actually under the amendment to the act, we're allowed to build ancillary structures like the clubhouse, which I'm very proud that we got to do that in a very short time, and the community really likes it. The indoor sports thing, under our act in section 7 and reaffirmed by a vote 2 years ago, we actually are unable, as worthy as it is, I would support Howard on this 100% if we could do it, but it says in the act we can't, and we have to follow the law on that. That's where I stand. I hope, does that kind of answer your question?
I was looking a little bit more for sort of your interpretation of the underlying fundamental mission of the importance of those pillars and the potential for them being eroded perhaps by something like Article 97.
Permission to continue, Lee?
Yes.
Or do you want me to come
20, 30 seconds, that's all.
30 seconds, thank you. This act would just, there's only 2 land banks in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, and I can't tell you the difference between the laws between both. There's no saying what would happen if we went to the State House, this article passed, and legislators opened up the act. There could be massive unintended consequences. It took us 3 years, $345,000 to build a dormitory for the golf club. And I would hate to see what would happen. I think there's going to be massive repercussions on all of us and all our lifestyles. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Howard, response to Josh's question. You're on mute. No, it's Howard who's on mute. John Carlin, you're good now, Howard.
Okay, sorry about that. The land bank was formed to stave off development of open space. That was 38 years ago. But the writers of the article put another section in that defined their underlying purpose, which was specifically, and I quote, for the welfare of Nantucket and its inhabitants. And that phrase, which is in section 14, further goes on to say, and this should be liberally interpreted. I think the fear of Boston is a shibboleth that has been put forward to stave off other uses of the money. I think if the island supported an indoor facility or any other use of the money with a uniform front, since we're not asking Boston for anything, that they would go along with it, just as they have many, many amendments over the years to the Land Bank Act.
Thank you, Howard. Moving right along into final statements. Howard, if you'd start off again for the final statement, please.
Thank you, Lee, and thank the Civic League for providing this opportunity. I think the Land Bank has a wonderful record, but I think we have to think about the future. I think we have to think about making further transformative changes. I think we need that indoor facility. I think we need pristine ponds. I think we need housing. The Land Bank can help all of us have a better quality of life. And I think we need to reimagine how the Land Bank goes forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Howard. Neil, final statement, please.
Thank you. And Howard, thank you for running and bringing a different point of view to this election. I'm running on my record. I feel like I've got things done over the years. I'm very proud that I'm very accessible. And I really care deeply about the island. Not to say I don't care about housing. That's all part of living on an island and a community. But I just think there's so many other ways we can all grow together without removing 25% of a revenue on this particular article. I think the Land Bank is evolving with its mission into more growing food. It's really important. We've got a lot of farms coming online. I'd like to be part of that. I grew up on a farm in Scotland. I care. I think it's very important with this massive growth that we manage it properly. And the Land Bank is a force for good. And if you lose 25% of what we have, we're no longer a participant. That would be really a very different Land Bank. God, I see the bell. Anyway, thank you all for putting this on, and I look forward to the election. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Our final group is the Community Preservation Committee, 3 candidates for 2 seats. And I know that the candidates have been very patient as the other committees went through. So now we will turn to Neville Richin, Timothy Salvarino, and Maria Zota. And opening statements, alphabetical order, please, Neville. We need Neville Richin. I know he was here earlier. Neville, are you still here?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
There he is. Hello, Neville.
Can you make sure that you only have this open on one tab? You need to have just this one meeting open. If you have it open on another, if you have the YouTube open or the
Okay.
TV on or Zoom open somewhere else, you're gonna get that feedback
Okay,
we don't want.
hold on. Okay. I don't know if I'm- I don't know if it's still on.
For those who are listening, that was the voice of John Carl, our very, very able NCTV technician who is trying to sort out Neville's broadcast. What have we got? Neville, are you there?
So the reason that happens is he had it open on 2, he probably had the YouTube open or Zoom open twice or something. So you just gotta make sure he's only got that open on one place, and then that echo should go away.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Lee?
I can. Who's speaking?
Peter, just suggesting if there's more than about a 15-second delay, I would maybe go on with Tim and then double back to Neville once he gets that sorted out. We
Good
have
idea.
one of our questioners has to leave about 3:15. I want to be sure we don't miss him.
Right, I got that. Neville, are you there? If not, Timothy Salvarino, and we'll cycle back to Neville Richin.
Tim's not on.
Timothy?
Not on the list.
Yeah,
Okay,
he never showed up.
never showed. So why don't we go with Maria?
Who has been here all along, very patient. Maria, if you would lead off with your opening statement. Yeah.
She's muted.
Yeah, I've asked her to unmute. She just has to accept that.
Is that good?
Good.
Okay. First, let me thank the Civic League, but more importantly, the voters of Nantucket for the opportunity to serve the island on the Community Preservation Committee for the past 3 years. It has been both a challenge and a fulfilling experience. I take my at-large position seriously and come to the committee with no agenda, only to spend your tax dollars wisely. I had previously been the representative for the Parks and Recreation Commission some years back. During my current 3-year tenure, I have missed less than 4 meetings as the project manager for the Thrift Shop, St. Mary's, Sustainable, Mariah Mitchell, Linda Loring, the Homestead, Landmark House, and NISDA. I have managed their budgets and building projects. Once funds are allocated, I visit the sites to make sure the work is done well and efficiently. Assisting these vital not-for-profit institutions is important to our island and you as residents. People that know me well understand that I am not afraid to ask the tough questions and make sure that the CPC guidelines are met and followed. When the committee meets each fall to review new projects, I have read and studied each grant with an open mind. During the grantee interview process, it is my job to ask questions and review the data to ensure that your tax dollars are well spent. It would be a privilege for me to continue to serve on the CPC. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Now, we're going to have to work around because I see Timothy Savarino on the attendees list. So let's call on Neville, who looks like he's got a connection for his opening statement while we try and find Timothy Savarino. Neville? Start to speak, and we'll see whether or not you're there. John Carl, can you find Neville?
Yes, he's there. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure. He doesn't even say he's muted at the moment.
Okay, well, while we're trying to connect to Neville, our
He's
second
gone. He left.
questioner has to leave. So Josh, you get to ask complicated questions because Jason will be offline.
Neville's on now, it looks like.
Neville, try and start speaking, please. Okay. John Carl, can you find Timothy Savarino?
So Timothy Savarino should be in as a panelist. He should be able to speak. For whatever reason, Neville does not have a microphone on the device he is currently connected on, so he can't speak. But Timothy Savarino should be able to speak.
All right, Timothy, please. By the way, is it Timothy or Tim as you introduce yourself?
Either is fine, sir. Either is fine.
Okay.
So thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak to the voters of Nantucket. I have been privileged to be on the CPC for the last 6 years, and I'm asking the voters to support me for a 3rd term. I love the work. I'm a local Nantucket man, grew up on the island, and I think I'm pretty familiar with the projects and the needs and the wishes of the community. I feel like I'm pretty in touch, and was actually a selectman at the time that we approved the state authorization for us to become participants in the state program called the Community Preservation Committee. So I've known about it and been part of it for quite a long time. And again, I would look forward to serving again if the voters of Nantucket would give me the opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Timothy. By the way, Savarino is a very esteemed name. A face like yours used to greet the boat when I first came on island.
Well, you're very kind to say that. Thank you very much. That was my dad. And I was the luckiest son in the world to have him. And sometime we'll have to talk about that.
Okay. John Carlin, Neville. Is Neville available for discussion?
Yeah, he doesn't have a microphone on his device, so he can't speak. I asked him to rejoin with a device that does have a microphone, but unless he does that, he won't be able to speak.
Okay, so in the interest of staying not too far out of time, Josh, if you would lead with your questions for Maria and Tim.
I will ask only one question, as I also have to leave momentarily, and if someone could transfer them to Neville if he is able to get on, that would be great. But here's the question. Given the CPC's mandate to support open space acquisition, historic preservation, and affordable housing initiatives, what projects would you be most likely to support if elected to the CPC or continuing on the CPC?
So Josh, if I could summarize in anticipation of Neville, within the scope of available projects, what's your priority? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Let's go with Timothy.
Well, Josh, thank you for the question. You know, that's really hard to prioritize between the three because, you know, community preservation, historic preservation, open space, it's really, I don't know if I could pick a priority because each project is analyzed and discussed on its own merit. And sometimes we've seen, you know, different criteria that maybe make you sway one way, the potential strength of an organization that's bestowed with a historic structure, let's say, but they don't have the membership or the bankroll to be able to keep up. A good example of that is the Unitarian Church. They have a very small congregation, and they have this just community treasure as far as the structure and what it means to our community. And how do you balance that with the need for open space somewhere? It's hard to pick. And I would say that depending on the project that's before us, I don't have a preconceived mindset, if you will. I'll pick this over that. And I make my best decision based on the rules and based on the project before us. So, Josh, I don't mean to skirt around your question because I know it's very easy to be black and white and say, I'll do this over that. But in my experience on the CPC, at least from my heart and from my mindset, I don't have the ability to have a favorite. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Timothy. Maria.
Quite frankly, Josh, the act itself, especially if you're an at-large member, you have to weigh each of those three entities equally. I have to give as much weight to preservation, to open space as I do to housing. And that's what I do when I'm reading each and every grant. That's the way the act is written. So I think it's important that I don't come with a particular agenda. Even though I've been a park and rec commissioner and, you know, I love recreation, I have to give as much weight and consideration to the historic component as well as the housing component. And do we have time for like a final statement?
We do, but right now I'm going to see if Neville has been able to connect.
Very good, thank you.
John Carlin, Neville, are you on board?
I don't think he can speak, but I could be wrong. He doesn't seem to have a
Can I
microphone.
make another comment, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, let me just deal with Neville because we're coming back for final comments. So you consolidate everything into what you want to say. You will have a chance.
Okay, thank you.
Right now, we did have Neville earlier. We got to see his face, got to hear him speak, but he had an unfortunate feedback echo, and we were trying to cure that. We cured it so well, he disappeared. John Carlin, Neville.
Yeah, he's on the panelist list, but he doesn't have a microphone, so he's not going to be able to speak.
Oh dear. I want to give everybody a chance. He's tried, but we have run out of time.
Lee, can
Timothy.
I also just say something? Jason had to leave. I promised him that, he'd be able to bug out by 3 p.m. because he has another commitment. So we have no second question, but we do have time to, if there's any way to, to try to get Neville connected anyway. And we also are at a point where we could see if there are any audience questions that would pass the time until we get Neville up and running.
Okay, but what we're going to do now are final statements from Timothy and Maria. And because Timothy said he had a couple more things to say, and I said he should consolidate that with whatever he was thinking of saying for final words. Timothy, please.
Well, thank you. I did want to make one follow-up comment to Josh's question, and that is that the act actually requires us to spend a certain amount of money in each of the particular categories. So in addition to having a passion or a feel for a project, we also have to consider funding all of the mandates that are required under the act in at least a minimum capacity. So everything gets dollars. It's just a question of how we allocate them. But in regards to a closing statement, again, I would just say that, it's been a privilege for me to grow up in Nantucket and serve the community. I've served as a selectman for 12 years and the finance committee for 8 years, and now on the CPC for 6. So I feel like I'm very well prepared with some historical knowledge and a history of the projects and the island to continue to serve. And I asked the voters of Nantucket if they would see fit to give me another term. I would be eternally grateful, but I'm also very thankful for the privilege I've had so far. So it's been a pleasure, Mr. Moderator. Thanks for the chance.
Thank you, Timothy. And Maria.
Your Nantucket Community Preservation Committee has an outstanding 10-year record on projects that created the skateboard park, the new playing fields, and the adventure park. And we've restored most of our churches because they are historic buildings. The architectural history of Nantucket, affordable housing, and recreational facilities are important work of the CPC. It would be an honor for me to serve again for the next 3 years, and I hope to continue with this fine tradition. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. And so to Peter, NCL, Civic League co-president, we're going to try one more time to get Neville. And Junko, any chance?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him, he's the only way he's going to be able to get in is if he can join with a device that has a microphone, and he doesn't seem to be doing that at the moment, so I don't think he will be able to speak.
All right.
Could I
make a suggestion? I just want to offer Neville an opportunity, since there was a problem and you were inadvertently unable to join us. If you would email me specifically, I think you have my email address. If you'd like to mail us a statement of your, what you would have said as your 2-minute presentation, we will try to get it disseminated in any way we can by the Civic League so the public has an opportunity to read it, okay?
Peter, thank you. I was about to say an identical thing. Neville, if you can hear us, we want your words and we will disseminate them. At this point, we're getting a little late. If any member of the public has a question, you've got 10 seconds to raise your hand, and that's the electronic yellow icon. 7, 8, 9.
I have one.
Oh, good. Who's that?
Jill.
Jill Beef.
Oh, okay. You're on the other list.
Sorry, is it okay if I ask a question, Lee? I was going to
It
ask
is. It
for the
is.
land bank
I
candidate.
can see the icon. Please go ahead.
I was just asking land bank candidates, is there any way where you see that the money you have is enough? Do you feel like you need more money than what you receive? And are there circumstances where you think borrowing money in addition to the land transfer fee that you get is necessary? Thank you.
All right. Is Howard and Neil, are Howard and Neil still on board?
Yep, I'm here.
That's Neil. You go first because you responded first.
Jill, thank you for that. One idea I've always had, and I think this would be something really helpful, would be adding 0.5% or 1/4% or whatever onto the existing land bank fee and asking that as an amendment to our act. I could be 100% supportive of that and would be if that ever came to fruition. It's, you know, when I was looking at the 10-year average, it's $20 million. It again, the millions are just obscene, that word, it just rolls off your tongue like it doesn't mean anything. It does mean something. And that would be a really good solution rather than trying to take away, hurt all the stuff we do. And, you know, who's to say there's not another greater crisis coming? So it's $20 million a year, debt service, restricted funds. You take away 25% of what's left, we're not a player in the island anymore. Bill Klein, who started this land bank, is one of the most clever people and well-written people I've ever had the privilege of being associated with. I mean, this is designed in a way to react to the market. And as I say, I'm going to vote for every article to give as much money as we can. So that's where I stand on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Howard, are you still on board?
Hi, Sam, and I appreciate the question. My take on the land bank numbers from their financial statements is a little different. The income is not 20 million a year, but 25 if you count all sources of income, not just the fee. And I think you need to keep in mind how much they spend on everyday costs every year, other than acquisitions and capital projects. And that amount is only 3 million. It's right there in their statements. So if you take 3 from 25, you wind up with 22 million every year. Now, everybody has their own point of view. I think it's important to do all of the projects, not just the one that the land bank has done, but all the others as well. And I think there is money in the land bank for all of them. That's what I want to emphasize. These are not adversarial projects. It can do both. I think the resources are there. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. And at this point, seeing no other raised hands.
Can I just have a quick rebuttal?
Yes, you actually raised your hand too.
I did too. I pressed the yellow icon. The numbers we're talking about, the only numbers I'm going to talk about when it comes to money are the audited figures. Not, I mean, you can take any number you want and you can put a spin on it. And let's stick to the real numbers. Susan Campese, who's in charge of all our numbers, has been furnishing everybody the real numbers. It's not 3, take away this, take away that. That's, to me, a red herring. I think we just need to, you know, the voters, and we live in a great democracy, they have a chance to debate this and decide whether 25% is a minor amount or not. And I would just like to stick to the real numbers that come out of the land bank for a debate point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Howard. And thank you all candidates, whether you are or are not online. Remember, this is being recorded. People may certainly watch it all over again if they choose. And here's why. I've heard some excellent presentations election this year is going to be difficult. And may the best person win. And how do we know who's best? Within our minds, it's reviewing what they've told us today. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Peter Morrison, our co-president of the Civic League. Peter, you're on mute.
Me, please. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending. I just want you all to know that this is being recorded. It was broadcast live, and you will be able to view it starting in about 2 days at your convenience. So pass the word around. We'd like everybody to watch this who wants to be informed about who to vote for. It'll be there right up through and after the election. Thanks for attending.
Thank you all. John Carl, thank you for your help. And once again, Neville, if you can hear us, submit your statement to Peter and we'll get it broadcast. Thank you. I'm going to hit my red button for